The Turnbull government did have a win today. It did make a deal with One Nation that should just about clear the way for its media law reforms to go through the Senate with the support of other crossbenchers. But what does it mean for you? Well, first, the existing media companies, which are really struggling right now, will be able to own TV, radio stations and newspapers in the same area, all three platforms in one area, which helps keep them in business, of course. And the taxpayer-funded ABC, which is far too big and bloated and biased, that faces a few more restrictions. Not enough, but still useful. For instance, the ABC will be told to focus more on rural and regional services. There will also be an inquiry into how it's misusing its huge power and your money to put commercial media out of business by upping the bidding on to cover sports events, for example, or by getting involved in internet media. And Parliament will be asked to change the ABC Act to say the broadcaster must now be fair and balanced as well as impartial, because it has been out of control. Joining me is the leader of One Nation, Pauline Hanson. Thanks for your time, Pauline. Before we get on to today's media reforms, I've got to ask you, should Barnaby Joyce stand down as Deputy Prime Minister or perhaps even quit Parliament?
If there is any question over his citizenship, and if he is a dual citizen, yes, he has to. Under the Section 44 of the Australian Constitution, he must stand down. He is not eligible to stand in the Parliament. And it was One Nation who actually put out the call that every member of Parliament must show their, their papers that they are not a dual citizen. If they are, they must have renounced it before nomination. And it's quite evident. That's our constitution. And yet these people who expect people of Australia to abide by the laws, they're not doing it themselves. And I think it's terrible the way they're behaving. They're covering up each other. They're looking after each other, and I think it's wrong.
Well, he's saying like he didn't know. It's the Sergeant Schultz defence. I knew nothing. I was in ignorance, and therefore, the High Court will let me off. But do you think he should go now, or just wait for the High Court to rule?
No, look, Malcolm Roberts, my senator, he was actually, we referred him to the High Court, so let the High Court make a decision with this. But Malcolm Roberts went through the procedures of renouncing his citizenship. And Andrew, that's all very convoluted too as well, because Malcolm Roberts, and I won't go into detail, but that'll come out in the High Court. It's totally different to Barnaby Joyce's case. But he's admitted he's got dual citizenship. New Zealand has said he's got dual citizenship, therefore he does not have a right to stay in the Parliament. And I do believe that they're looking at a by-election in his electorate, so they know he shouldn't be there.
What did you make of the Foreign Minister today blaming New Zealand Labor for this and saying, well, look, if they win the election next month, I don't know how I could possibly trust them?
Well, I think it's all smoke screening. I think it's ridiculous the way they're going on. And as you've said, it's on the world stage. We're looking like fools constantly all the time, with prime ministers changing over in prime ministers, and then now with the citizenship, and this one's coming out in dribs and drabs who shouldn't be in Parliament. It is a joke. We are an absolute joke. I wish they'd show some leadership and say to everyone on the floor of Parliament, right, do you have a right? Do you comply with Section 44 of the Australian Constitution? If you don't, then let the High Court deal with it. But it's ridiculous. Until this is finalised, we're going to keep going down this path, and the media, everyone else will actually be looking for who's the next one and who's the next one. It happened to One Nation in 1998 with Heather Hill, and when Senator Len Harris took up her position, because she was ineligible to sit, it was Len Harris who brought to the floor of Parliament that it should be disclosed that who holds dual citizenship. At that time, it was questionable. We thought it was about 62 on the floor of Parliament. Now, they all closed ranks. They have closed ranks all these years and then don't intend to do about it. When George Brandis, the Attorney-General, says on the floor of Parliament, well, if you want to accuse someone of having dual citizenship, well, it's you who have to prove that they don't have the right to stand here in this Parliament, sit here in this Parliament. Not the fact is they must produce evidence that they do have the right. So No, and I know this. It is extremely hard. You cannot find out if anyone has dual citizenship, if they've renounced it. So it's stupid to say onus of proof is on that person who raises it.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more. It's, you know, the policeman doesn't say, I have to prove that you don't have a licence for the car you're driving. You have to show the licence in order to prove your entitlement to drive the car. I mean, please, I don't know why politicians are given a different standard here. But listen, the media reforms, why did you agree to them?
Well, I remember the last time I had an interview on this program, and you said, Pauline, you're wrong, remember? And I said, OK, Andrew, I will go away and I will have a look at this. And that's what we've done. And over the winter break, I've, spoken to different groups and organisations. And the last thing I want to see is a lot of these journos lose their jobs. There are a few good ones out there, so I want to keep them on board. But look, the whole thing is it's changed, the 2 out of 3. We've got newspapers going under. We've got people that are losing their jobs. We've got now Google. We've got other, digital media, reform areas. So I think it was a step to take to bring in more balance also. And if I didn't agree to this also, all I could see is the ABC getting more of a stranglehold, pushing their agenda, their left-leaning views, and I thought, no, this is an opportunity, and you've raised some of the things that I've asked for, and hopefully we can get a balance back into our media so people can make a very well-informed opinion when they watch something, and we're not being dictated to people by too far to the right or people too far to the left.
Look, I couldn't agree with you more, obviously, but I love the bit about changing the ABC Act to demand to be fair and balanced. What good do you think might come from that?
Well, look, I think that by putting that in, and it's going to be in their charter, people say, well, what's the difference, fair and balanced? It's got accurate and with impartiality, but fair and balanced, it means that you can't just have your own opinion and just push that, your own opinion. So if it's fair and if it's balanced, and if not, I hope it opens it up to people who've had a program done on them, and I'm not going to mention any names, that can actually take it back and say, hang on a minute, that was not fair, that was not balanced, you didn't interview everyone that needed to be interviewed in this program. And I'll go back to the one of the export of cattle overseas. Was that really a fair and balanced show? So it's not just about myself or one nation, I think it's right across the board with everyone. In the public's best interest, we have to take a stand here, and it's all about accountability. We've got over $1 billion being poured into the ABC. That's hard-earned taxpayers' dollars. Now, if you're going to have that broadcaster, well, let's make sure it works for the people.
Well, you mentioned the $1 billion a year that it's getting from us. You didn't think of trying to chisel that back a bit? I mean, gosh, that's a lot of money.
Andrew, I'd whack off quite a bit of money off it, hundreds of millions if I possibly could. But you know what? I'm going to wait till next year for the budget, and I'll talk to the Treasurer about that. So there was no deals done about that in this. This was dealing with the bill. It was about the 2 out of 3 rule and the reach rule, and I think I stick with this. I will fight my battles when they come up, and don't worry, I'll be fighting the battle about the budget, and I think it's an absolute waste of money. But I think we've got a win here also. When now the top broadcasters or the media personalities on the ABC who earn over $200,000 a year must, it's there on the registrar so everyone can see it. So some of these TV presenters who are only on air for a few hours a week, who are on nearly $400,000 a year, that is in the public's interest, that needs to be exposed. And isn't it funny, for years and years and years they've kept that tight lip. They didn't want anyone to know about that. It wasn't in anyone's interest, and they're covering their own backsides. Well, too bad. It's now out there for the public.
Now, you've also asked for an inquiry into how the ABC competes with commercial media, because it's using taxpayers' money, obviously, to do things like bidding for sport, why are we taxpayers amping up the price when commercial media could do it anyway? Now, what are you hoping for here?
Well, this is the ABC and the SBS. They shouldn't be going to these areas because commercial television are doing it tough and they're limited. Like the ABC have virtually an unlimited budget, so they can sort of bid high prices with this to get these programs. And I think they should be left to the commercial TV stations. That's their bread and butter, and it should be left to them. The ABC has some fantastic programs. I think they have a pretty good news service. I think Landline's fantastic, and some of these others areas are great TV shows that they put out, and kids programs. I love all that. But stick with what you know and what you're doing, and stop stepping on the toes of the commercial stations that are going under, because a lot of these people are doing it tough, and if they lose their jobs, I think it's a huge impact on our media, society, with everything, because a lot of people love their shows out there, and I believe the ABC needs to pull in their reins a bit, stick with what you know and what you're supposed to do under your charter.
Well, even the Fairfax media finally accepted that argument that their lunch is being eaten by the ABC. Now, you've also got a deal for country radio and TV, so that's good. That's a bigger focus on the ABC expanding country service, which obviously appeals to your base.
Yeah. Look, it's a...
Go ahead.
Sorry, yeah, look, what I was saying, sorry, earpiece coming out, but look, this is a big win. The ABC, where now they've got to get out to rural and regional areas. They've got to have, a couple of directors, non-executive directors on a board, where they're actually going to have these people that have experience in rural and regional areas. Don't take the city people, because they wouldn't have a clue what they're doing, but put these people out there who really have the interest of their country at heart, and start representing them, and spend more money in the rural areas, because most of their, 35% of their people that they reach are in rural and regional areas, but they don't get the same, what can I say, money or interest spent in those areas, news services and everything. But then another big winner in all this is community radio. And we're now they're going to get an extra $12 million over the next 4 years in areas helping community radio. They're doing it tough. And I've been on a lot of community radios, so it's going to help them with news services and, streamlining and, so a lot of areas, 4 different areas, the money's going to be put in. And moving into the digital, the government was funding for the next 2 years, but we've extended it from 2019 and 2020, so they'll get an extra $4 million there.
Pauline Hanson, I'm glad that you and I see eye to eye on media reform. This is terrific, and thank you so much for taking another look at an issue that I think you may help to bring some clarity to. I appreciate it.
Well, Andrew, look, I've always said, I'm here with people. That's why I get around and I talk to people. And I haven't got a closed mind about a lot of things. And I thought, no, you bring something to my attention that needs a better look at it, and I'm quite willing to do it. But everything that I decide and what I vote on in that floor of Parliament, I look at what I believe is going to be in the best interest for the public, for the people. And all I call for is accountability. And that's exactly what I'm going to do with this government and the opposition.
Well, for as long as the government lasts, of course, and who knows how long that will be. Pauline Hanson, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, Andrew.
After the break, and talking about that ABC bias, staff ignore a warning that came only last week from management to stop campaigning for same-sex marriage, which happens to be good news for Tim Minchin.